lot of people only have Social Security as a predictable, sustainable income. But that's not so predictable anymore because we're going to have legislative changes in the near future that is going to change the way that we receive Social Security and how much we get.
And welcome into the program. This is Financial Focus, brought to you by the best of the best in financial services, 10 straight years and running, as named by the readers of the Lake City Reporter. They are the team from GulfCoast Financial Services. John Kuykendall, founder and CEO, here with us, as always, keeping us financially focused and retirement ready. John, I think a lot of people are probably so ready to retire, but are they really retirement ready? We'll be talking about the important difference and differentiation and how to be retirement ready on today's program. Start with a little history of retirement. It has not always been the same. It's changed and evolved a pretty good deal over the last 150 years.
Yeah, well, Peter, 1875 was the first year that we got a retirement plan. American Express offered America's first employer plan. And it really didn't change much until 1935 when we enacted Social Security. So from 1875 to 1935, that's 60 years, nothing really happened. And so it was a long time before we gradually accepted this retirement concept.
Yeah. And now it's been 150 years and we're still uncertain about whether we can retire successfully or not. We appreciate American Express for kind of pushing the way forward for us to figure out that we have tools to retire, but whether or not we're really retirement ready, still a lot of doubt and worry and uncertainty. John, I mean, this is a continuing evolution, right? Because if Social Security was founded in 1935, that's what, 90 years old at this point in time. But that even has evolved and changed a great deal, right? Because Social Security, I think only 9 years later, they pushed the full retirement age out a year. And then for the next several decades, they continued pushing it out. And right now, we still have a couple years before those folks reach full retirement age. The latest change reaches 67.
Yeah, I mean, you reach Medicare age at 65, but you don't reach Social Security full retirement age until 67 plus. So, and it's aged out based upon your birth date. So, there's a gap there of those 2 years. Do I go to Medicare? Do I take Social Security now? Do I wait? Do I take Social Security later? Will it be there for me? A lot of unknowns, a lot of questions to be answered. But, it has evolved. None of it was taxed in the beginning. And now up to 85% of it's subject to taxes. So there are a lot of changes. There have been a lot of changes. And Peter, there will be a lot of changes in the future. We've got the biggest wave of people coming onto Social Security. And as we live longer, we're continuing to tax that system because we got less workers working for us than we did when we started. I think it was like 44 people for each retiree not that long ago. And now it's down to what, about 4 to 1?
Yeah, if that, I think the ratio keeps getting kind of less and less in our favor of sustainability there. So, but John, we move through phases of our financial life, right? And what you're talking about is the ratio of workers to how many people are retired. But each of us individually go through these phases on our own track.
Yeah, we do, Peter. We used to talk about the 3 phases of retirement was the go, slow go, and the no go. And in this case, we've got the accumulation, which is those years while we're accumulating those retirement dollars. And then we got the preservation, which is age 55 to 65, 67, 70, whenever you retire, where we're wanting to preserve as much of that retirement dollars as we can without losing it, but continuing to have it grow. And then later, Peter, we've got the distribution dollars. Now, people think, well, that's okay. I've saved this money up. Now it's available for me. So I'm just going to take it out. Well, the way you take it out determines how long it's going to last. And how much can I take out? Do I have enough income? How am I going to figure all those things out so that I can have the kind of retirement that I want?
Well, I know that that is one of the missions there at Gulf Coast Financial Services, is why you put the financially focused written retirement plan together, which encompasses much more than just investment management, right? Retirement planning
Oh, yeah.
entails a lot of different facets, understanding the retirement planning process, knowing where you are, defining those current situations, as well as your future goals, determining where you're going financially, how to get there. But more than just investment management. Again, income planning, healthcare planning, legacy planning. John, you've got to bring all of those facets together.
Well, that's right, Peter. We've got to take a look at everything because it all fits into the tax planning that we do and the Social Security planning that we do. So we want to look at the individual as a whole. We want to look at everything that's going to happen. You know, healthcare is important. It's going to be the biggest expense we're going to have in retirement. How are we planning for that? Do we go on Medicare? Do we go on stay on our employee plan? I'm retired, but my wife's not. How is she going to get health insurance? All that has to be planned out prior to retirement. Income planning. Am I going to have enough income to pay my bills and know that I've got predictable, sustainable income? How would you like to be drawing money out right now when we're having a big downturn in the market? And so every dollar I take out is hurting my portfolio's growth. So we have to plan for those things. And that's why here we have, a cash bucket, a growth bucket, and an income bucket. And the income bucket is the most predictable, most important that we have so that we can get that predictable, sustainable income. And we want to talk about legacy planning. How am I passing these assets on? Am I going to penalize my heirs because of the way I've set my estate up? Do I have the documents? You'd be surprised, Peter, at the number of people that walk in here and I say, let me see your will. And they say, we don't have one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're 60, 65 years old. You've already gambled for most of your life that you're not dead. So why continue to gamble? Get the will.
It is 100% certainty given a long enough timeline, right, John?
We're
But
all going to die sometime, Peter.
well, you talked about the importance of income, and they're the three most common sources of income in retirement are pensions,
Right.
Social Security, and then personal savings. With the lack of pensions that we have today, doesn't that put much more strain and stress on the emphasis on the importance of the personal savings that we're doing?
Well, sure, Peter, because a lot of people only have Social Security as a predictable, sustainable income. But that's not so predictable anymore because we're going to have legislative changes in the near future that is going to change the way that we receive Social Security and how much we get. And I really believe that it's going to be income for assets and income. So as we get this indexed, we may not get our 100% on our dollar. We may only get 70, may only get 50%. So we want other sources of assets. When the government set up the 401ks and did away with the defined benefit plans in the 80s, 1987, I think, we really did a disservice for retirees because while we put the planning on us, so many of us procrastinate in the early years because we're spending money on the family, on, vacations, softball, baseball, all the little things in life that happen. So we don't really set that money aside. And a lot of people, Peter, even when they retire, they look at that as free money. I mean, all of a sudden I've got 400,000, I'm rich, I can go spend it. You can't do it. It's a source of income.
Yeah.
And what we want to do is make sure that we set it up so they take that money and, like I said, part of it's put in a growth bucket, but part of it's put into an income bucket so I can manage my bills. And I know that every month I've got my own private pension. Why do I want to not do that when I can guarantee myself a lifetime income by the insurance companies, which will give us the lifestyle that we want to have?
Well, and replacing that predictability of income so important for the confidence that we have. John, we used to talk about these three sources of income being the three-legged stool, right? And three
Yeah.
because it provided stability. And in fact, kind of personal note, uh, relinquished yourself of a trike, right? Is
Yeah.
you sold your toy, your trike. The reason why I think the motorcycles moved to the trike is it's a little bit more stable. It's a little bit safer, right?
Yeah.
But you minus the pensions, and now we're back to the motorcycle. And a lot of people don't even have personal savings, so now we're riding around on a unicycle. And because of the stability of Social Security, we're not sure when somebody's going to kick the wheel out from under us there either.
Well, we're going to live longer, Peter. I mean, it's proven that we're living longer. And so we're going to have to maintain our retirement dollars for a long time. People say, well, I can always go back and get a job. That's not true. As we get older, we can't do as much as we used to. I always used to say I never understood why old people didn't have any time because they weren't doing anything. The problem is it takes us twice as long to do anything. And so we don't have as much time, but we're constantly, working on going and doing things, but at the same time, we got to take naps. So, we can't go back to work because our boss ain't going to let us take a nap. But in health, we may not be of health where we can go back to work. So why not plan to have that predictable, sustainable income from a third source so that we can guarantee ourselves that we're going to have a three-legged stool and it's going to help us. We're going to have the growth bucket, the income bucket, and the pension and Social Security bucket.
Well, you mentioned we're living longer. And so one of the key aspects to lasting retirement confidence, identify the risks that can affect your financial stability and address them, right? So you've got six key critical risks that we must address. Number one is you may outlive your money. And I think
Yeah.
this is a top concern, right, John? Especially with the fact that we're living longer. That longevity is a factor here.
Number one concern among seniors is outliving their money and having to call on their kids for help because the kids may not be able to help. The kids may not be able to take care of us. So, we want to be able to have our own source of income. According to the census, we've got over 53,000 centurions in 2010 and over 90,000 in 2020. And by 2030, we're predicting 130,000 people that are alive over the age of 100. Now, I know that Social Security has got somebody on their system that's 360 years old, but, but
Most of us will not make it that far.
no, we're not going to make it that far. But, we are living longer. There's a good possibility that if you're married and 65 years old, you're going to live, one of y'all or both of you are going to live to 90. So, we've got to take advantage of the idea that while we may not be going as much in those later years, the rent, the telephone, all the things that we have and healthcare costs are going to continue to go up. And so those are the things that we need to work on to make sure that we have enough money. Risk number two, which is a big one, which is the national debt. We owe $33 trillion and it's growing. And so how are we going to pay for that? Higher taxes, changes in Social Security, changes in Medicare, all those things are going to happen because the government only has two ways to raise money. They can cut cost or they can raise taxes. And while we're trying to cut cost right now, we're not, we can always raise taxes. And so things are going to change. Retirement age may go to 70, and so you got to wait till 70 to get Social Security or take a big haircut. A lot of things are going to happen currently with that debt, we've got to have more revenue to pay for the debt service because it's taking a big check out of that government bill.
Yeah, we blinked, John. It bumped up past $36 trillion.
I know
It's
it's
moving
amazing.
amazingly fast. Last time the government had a balanced budget was back in 2001. So it's beyond,
Wow.
the age of majority at this point in time, the last time we were able to even balance our checkbook. And then
Wow.
we talked about the wheel getting kicked out from under us. Number three, the one thing that was meant to be more stable and secure, Social Security, is actually a risk here. And I think that probably goes back to number two and ties in a little bit as well, right?
Yeah, I think Social Security is a risk because as we live longer, more people are on it. The government just changed how many people can be on it by bringing all the civil workers over and eliminating the shortfall for them. So they're going to be able to get more dollars. So that's going to put up more of a crunch on Social Security. Changes have to be made in Social Security. The last projection was 2033 when we ran out of money. That is probably going to be sooner. They just haven't come out with the new projections as we bring all these government and social civil workers over to full Social Security. It's going to be a problem, Peter. And so we are going to see major changes. What are those changes going to be? I don't know. I think it's going to be indexed for income and assets. So the more you got, the less you get. And so, how do we make up for that so we can still live? That's the whole key.
Risk number four, Medicare, and then unplanned healthcare expenses, which Medicare doesn't cover all of.
Medicare doesn't cover all. And, contrary to popular belief, Medicare is not free. I mean, it does cost because you have to have Medicare Part A, which is free, B, which costs you money based upon how much income you have. And that's another reason we need to do income planning. And then also the fact that there are you have to have either an advantage plan or a supplement to cover the cost that they don't cover. So we've got co-pays, we've got insurance, or we still got insurance premiums. In my own case, my wife and I are spending $1,000 a month for Medicare. So, it's not free, but it is good. I got to tell you, it works wonderfully and I love it. But you got to be ready to pay for it because it's not free. And long-term care costs are not covered. So if I need help to be rehab longer than a year in a facility, I'm going to have to come out of pocket. Now, am I going to take that from my growth bucket or am I going to plan ahead for it? And that's why we need to do that planning. But you got to be ready uh, for those costs because Medicare isn't as free as I thought it was.
No, and then long-term care, John, over and above those routine costs, hospital
Yeah.
stays, drugs, the annual physicals and things that Medicare does cover, long-term care is well above and beyond those expenses.
Well, yeah, and with the inflation rate for medical cost, is going up higher than the national average, you could see $7,000 to $12,000 a month for a room in a facility. So, you get dementia and you need to have some place to go. It's going to cost some money. How are we going to pay for it? As long as you've got assets, Medicaid isn't going to pay for it. And Medicaid, which is the government program for low income wagers, isn't going to allow you to go to every facility. So the facility you may end up in is 50 to 100 miles away. Just depends on bed availability. So, there's a lot of advantages to taking care of this ahead of time and planning for those medical costs.
Again, we are talking with John Kuykendall about how to be retirement ready, addressing 6 risks to your retirement readiness and your ongoing financial confidence and stability. Risk number 5, John, we've seen it, but it is a constant. So inflation is something that we need to plan and prepare for. And unfortunately, a lot of people's plans don't account for or address inflation.
Well, the thing about it is, Peter, a dollar today is not going to be a dollar tomorrow. It's going to be $1.15 or $1.20. As we continue to raise what minimum wage and we continue to raise cost, you're going to see inflation continue and costs continue to go up. You'll need $9,000 in 20 years to generate what $5,000 at 3% inflation would have been today. So, and I mean, you can look at the instances on this, Peter. You know, think about what your first car cost, and then look at what one costs today. I mean, I saw a pickup truck yesterday advertised in the paper, and it was a new pickup truck. It was $97,000
Mm-hmm.
for a pickup truck, which, 3, 4, 5 years ago was probably 40,000. So things are costing more. Go to the grocery store, for
Yeah.
God's sakes.
Yeah, inflation is significant. And then risk six, we're kind of lumping them together here, right, John? Everything else, there's everything else that we have to worry about, including what? Market volatility, identity theft, cybersecurity,
Cybersecurity.
data breaches, pension funds not living up to their promises. We've certainly got our handful of what goes on around the world, geopolitical risks and pandemics. And
Pandemics.
everything that we could ever think of being thrown at us while we're trying to live comfortably and with some security and stability in retirement.
Well, Peter, it is a global society, and we are subject to the global things that happen all over the world. And so we have to be careful. What people don't realize is that underfunded pensions are a problem. There are a lot of companies out there that offer pensions, and if you look at them, they're underfunded. That if everybody retired and took the pension, there wouldn't be enough money there to cover everybody. And so, how long can they cover them? And a lot of times when those companies go broke or go out of business, then those people are left holding the bag and they get part of their pension, but they don't get the pension that they thought they were going to need. So that's certainly a risk. But, for most people, that's not a problem because we don't have pensions. We're trying to save money in our 401, our 403Bs, and our deferred accounts. So but we need to have a plan how we're managing that. Am I putting my money in a Roth? Am I putting my money in a regular account? Am I paying the taxes today? Am I paying the taxes tomorrow? How am I doing all this so that I can have the kind of retirement I want? And the financially focused income plan, Peter, will put all of that together, and it will give you a look at everything that we've talked about here. And with the inflation numbers included, and show you when you're going to run out of money or if you have enough money. And I got to tell you, there's nothing better than having somebody sitting in front of you and you run the plan and you say, okay, based upon what you've told me, how much money you're going to need. If you want to quit work tomorrow, you can.
Hmm.
People get a smile on their face and all of a sudden they want to work a little longer. I don't know what it is.
You're a little happier showing back up to the office. Well, this is it's going to be a cliffhanger episode here, a little bit of a two-parter or multi-part episode on how you can retire ready. Not just be ready for retirement like, oh, I'm so tired of working, but actually retire ready. And we've kind of set it up here talking about the problems with the current modern planning that we're seeing, and we've talked about the risks that we are exposed to in retirement. We'll talk about the process on the next episode of Financial Focused. What all goes into that financially focused written retirement plan? How do you have a process to know that you are retirement ready? And if you'd like the guide, this is a 31-page guide that goes through all of the factors we'll talk about over these episodes. John Kuykendall, happy to provide that to you. You can email you a copy of this retire ready guide. Just give a call to GulfCoast Financial Services, 386-755-9018. That's 386-755-9018. Or you can also visit online, gulfcoastfinancial.net, gulfcoastfinancial.net. Or again, 386-755-9018 to sit down with John, the team from Gulf Coast Financial Services, design your own financially focused written retirement plan. Or if you'd like to request the guide, Retire Ready, again, 386-755-9018. John, we'll look forward to continuing this conversation and finding out more about that financial planning process that goes into the financially focused written retirement plans.
Yeah, Peter, I think it's a great episode. I think next week is going to be really good. Everybody tune in. And remember, you can always get past episodes on the website.
GulfCoastFinancial.net. GulfCoastFinancial.net. John, always appreciate the time.
Thank you, Peter.
Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and tune in for more financial focus by visiting GulfCoastFinancial.net. The information presented on this program is provided for informational purposes only, without warranty of accuracy, completeness, or suitability for a particular purpose. This program is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. This information is general in nature and not specific enough to be construed as advice. You should not make any decision based on the information presented on this program without independent consultation with an appropriately licensed professional or competent advisor. Investment in securities or the market involves a potential risk for loss of principal. Trading, therefore, may not be suitable for all listeners. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes. John Kuykendall is registered with and securities are offered through Kovac Securities Inc., member FINRA SIPC, found online at www.kovacsecurities.com. Advisory services are offered through Gulf Coast Financial Services Inc., a registered investment advisor in Florida. Gulf Coast Financial Services Inc. is not affiliated with Kovac Securities Inc. or Kovac Advisors Inc. Past performance is not indicative of future results. All investing involves risk. Investment decisions should be based on your own goals, time horizon, and tolerance for risk. Due to various factors including changing market conditions and/or applicable laws, the content may no longer be reflective of current opinions or positions. Gulf Coast Financial Services Inc. has been named as Best of the Best since 2015 in the category of Best Financial Advisor in the Lake City, Florida area. The award was based on receiving the most votes in this category from a survey offered and tabulated by the Lake City Reporter. No direct or indirect compensation was provided to the Lake City Reporter and/or any raters, and the award is not contingent on future direct or indirect compensation offered to the newspaper and/or raters. Portfolio performance is not a criterion, and voting is open to any readers of the newspaper.